I think the use case that we talked about, and we asked you kind of come along and talk to us about, was around the joiners, movers, levers process, everybody's favourite.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us what was the challenge that you started with? What was the mandate you were given, and what was the challenge you were started with?
So the challenge around that is that within the group we have about 12 different businesses, and they are legal entities in their own right. And we sort of 10,000, 11,000 permanent employees, and we use in the region of 10,000 contract services as well. So our joiners, movers and levers process moves quite quickly and has to be able to respond quite quickly. We use an external recruitment platform, and then data comes into our Oracle Fusion's HR system. So that's fine. We already had Jitterbit in place that was picking data up from the recruitment platform in a sort of batch way, picking that data up and then manipulating the data to then be able to be placed onto a loader for Oracle to ingest that information. There's then a lot of manual steps. I call it a very mandrolic process. There's a lot of manual steps involved in terms of getting email addresses created for the user, getting a laptop ordered, getting a mobile phone ordered, and the idea behind that was to take all of that and to totally automate the whole process end to end. So we've switched the interface into our recruitment platform into a REST API that Jitterbit drives, pulling data from that system. The interface into Oracle has been moved to a REST API, so that's fully automated now in terms of ingesting the users into Oracle, which allows us to immediately get a payroll number, which is key for the other processes of ordering things. So we've got a payroll number that we can then fire off a request to our service provider to go and provide an email address, and that's an automated service as well, so we get a response back almost immediately around with an email address, which will then get immediately posted back into Oracle into that user's account. And then in the procurement system, purchase requests are raised for laptops or mobile phones, and then that follows the normal automated approvals process. And it's taken out a lot of manual process in terms of the hiring manager having to request all this stuff to be raised, go into systems and raise tickets, and that's all disappeared.
It's interesting, from my experience, I think businesses often don't do the JML great. Those that do it reasonably well do the joiners bit well. The levers bit tends to be not so brilliant.
So levers was another challenge in lots of laptops going walkabout, or user accounts not being disabled, or licenses not being unassociated with users. And that's all cost to the business.
And a massive security issue, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the main part and critical thing for my boss in terms of money was getting that done so that the requesting of hardware to come back is now an automated process. So from the time that they're marked as they're going to be leaving, that then all kicks off around pulling that stuff back in, marking, sending information into the Azure tenant to mark accounts as disabled, and getting the licenses withdrawn from those accounts, to even, we're quite a large user of Salesforce in terms of, we use Salesforce for contracts, but if we have an employee leaving and we can identify them as a Salesforce user, we can get those licenses taken off as well.
So it sounds like you're in a good place now, and there's a lot of automation in there. Can I take you back to the start and say, I think we heard before from Keith and Aaron about actually the first point around maybe some business analysis, understanding the starting point, the governance point. How did you start it? Who did you engage? How did the project kick off?
It had some false starts, and has only really gained traction in the last year. False starts around, particularly around governance, but also around actually defining what the scope of it is, what is the problem we really want to solve, and what are the key bits that we want to solve, and people trying to bolt too much onto the side. It's sort of saying, oh, well, do you know what? We'd really like to change the Oracle journey while we do this as part of movers, leavers and joiners. I'm like, no, it's this. But we do use Jitterbit in a two-way process in taking Oracle, information from Oracle to feed into the recruitment platform that then helps drive that bit that then comes back in for when we're creating users. But yeah, so we did have some stumbling blocks. Nothing around the technology, it's all mainly around the, getting the scope right, getting the governance right and sticking to it and not try and do too much. If you can, and cut it down into really good manageable chunks and deliver those and structure it in a way that it makes a logical sense in the order that you're going to do things.
Interesting, fascinating, I'd say actually. It's an old problem, but it's one which the goalposts are moving on, or the finish line is moving on. If you roll the clock back maybe 10 years or so, maybe people had access to 3 or 5 systems, right? But here today, the number of devices we have access to, the number of systems, especially in the SaaS world, I don't know how many it is for your particular use case. A lot of those individuals, I imagine, are in field service roles because of the nature of the business, but nonetheless, they could, easily have tens of systems. So it's, quite something that seems simple and tightly scoped on the surface is then quite complex and nuanced once you start to get into it. What came through loud and clear to me there was risk reduction and cost reduction, which of course are two good business benefits to go after.